Okay, now for some more official reports regarding the NFL. In football, obviously, and not a lot is going on right now, but you do have some training camp situations going up. You have some minor signings, and you can at least toy with the idea of talking about what you think is going to happen the next season. So, recent, excuse me, recently what's gone on is there's this Dallas Cowboys Terry Glenn fiasco. They want him to sign an injury waiver, which is completely reasonable. Last year he got paid for doing nothing. I think he might have caught like 2, 3 passes all season, all of them in the postseason, a game in which he looked shaky anyway. Just because he got passes doesn't necessarily mean he played well. He probably contributed heavily to the loss more than anything else. At least that's what I saw. So, and he's refusing to sign it. And I've heard conflicting reports saying he was just kidding, he's changed his mind, no, he didn't. And, it would have been a lot easier if Dallas just got a wide receiver. I mean, obviously you got T. Onion. You had yourself that. But they're kind of up a creek right now otherwise, don't you think? I think we've all seen what Creighton does when the pressure's on. I think we've all seen what Miles Austin does when he finally gets a chance to hit the field. You got Sam Hurd, you got Isaiah Stanback, and do you really believe in any of these guys? So they need to find something, work something out with Terry Glenn, and Jerry Jones is a rich man, and Dallas has a pretty happy cap situation right now, so I think he has to take the chance to eat possibly a couple of $1 million given to Glenn for him doing nothing this year if he gets hurt again, because they really do need him. I feel pretty strongly about that. Last year, obviously, they did not, but the conference there should be more parity in the conference this year. It's not going to be as easy, so something has got to happen to there. Let's see what else you got. One of the big stories in the NFL right now is Roger Goodell recently coming out and saying that rookies are getting paid a ridiculous amount. He is suggesting a system like the one the NBA uses, where there is a strict cap for rookies, and you can only give a rookie this amount of money depending on where he was drafted. And it works obviously very well for them because nobody gets overpaid for doing nothing. You can't just waltz into the NFL, even if you are Greg Oden or Kevin Durant, and demand to be paid as much as Kobe Bryant or whoever. So it works well for them. But while I am intrigued by the idea of the NFL implementing this system, because it obviously has its positives, like Jamarcus Russell should not be making more money than Mark Bulger, and Matt Ryan should not be making more money than Peyton Manning, and stuff like that. We do live in a market economy, and if a rookie is capable of shooting for a $60-70 million contract, and you set up a rule that forces him to settle for 30 or 20 or less, I don't know. I think that's, sounds like me on a soapbox, but that sounds kind of like communism to me, because if he is capable of getting $60 million, you should let him. And I know a lot of teams get trapped into having to overpay these rookies who have never done anything. But at the same time, it forces teams to be smarter. Look at the 49ers. A couple years ago, they took Alex Smith, #1 overall, and had to give him a $50 million contract to compensate. Because he was the #1 pick, and at that time, that was about run-of-the-mill for a #1 overall pick, $49 million for 6 years. Now they're in the basement. Well, they did have that one decent year because Frank Gore broke out. I'll give them that, and Alex Smith actually played okay, but on the whole, Alex Smith has just looked very poor so far in his career, and it's a risk-reward thing. The 49ers took Alex Smith, #1 overall. He hasn't worked out. The 49ers have not made the playoffs since they drafted him, and have been a basement team twice, and are probably going to be one again. So, basically, they get punished for making a bad decision. And they have to eat that because of Alex Smith's huge contract. Now, if they give him, now if the NFL forced Alex Smith to take a $20 million contract, they could make that huge mistake, realize it 2 or 3 years in, and cut him and move on. They don't suffer. As soon as they realize to make the mistake, they can just cut him loose and cut their losses. Now they're obliged to give Smith more and more chances, more than he deserves, because they paid him so much. So this system kind of forces teams to do their research, which I like. If you take a guy like David Carr or Alkali Smith or whoever, or Alex, or any of those busts, number one or in the top five, maybe you deserve to suck for a while. Maybe you deserve to have to give a bunch of money to a bad player. And maybe we should reward the teams who draft well, like the Texans choosing Mario Williams, who looks for all the world like a great pick. They have to pay him a lot of money, but they don't mind because they drafted well. They did their research. So that's one way to look at it. And I know a lot of people may not agree with me, and I didn't until recently, but I've read some things, I've thought about it, and I think that's fair. Now, let's say you convinced a bunch of NFL teams, like probably you'd have to do all of them, to enter sort of an agreement to not sign rookies who demanded this much money. Basically, they go on strike against rookies. They would draft them, but they wouldn't sign them until they decided to lower their demands. Now, in theory, if you draft a rookie and he doesn't sign, he just enters the draft the next year. But if you can get all the teams to agree that this is ridiculous, let's not pay him this much, that's a way to peacefully get what you want. Now, it's not easy. You'd have to go maybe a year or two without getting the rookies you need to put your team over the top. It will be frustrating. It may not even be possible because you need to convince everyone to do it. But I think that in the way our economy, the American economy works, that's just going to have to be what you're going to do if you want to get something like this done. And if you can't do that, or it sounds like something you cannot do, then you're just going to have to eat the big contracts and hope you draft well. So that's kind of how I view it now. I mean, I have changed my mind on this position a couple times based on maybe my mood, maybe things I consider, maybe things I read. So that's what I got. Okay, and before I sign out today, I did my first fantasy football draft of the year. I don't draft this early, almost any other time, but I figured one time it was in a 8-man league. Everybody's active, everybody loves fantasy football, so I figured, most leagues you join, half the people drop out by week 3, and nobody really cares, and it's just not fun, so I'll take the risk of an early draft, and I hate early drafts, to get into a good league. I'm going to be doing one more this year. I already have it set up. I'm not going to be doing a YouTube league this year or anything like that. I just want 2 leagues. So we drafted a couple days ago, I think actually yesterday, and here's what happened. The quarterback is Peyton Manning. You can trust him 15 weeks of the year. 1 week he'll be sitting out because the team likes to throw in the towel their last game, and 1 week he'll have the bye. But the other 15 weeks you should be able to count on him, and even if he struggles, you'll know it's a fluke and he'll come back strong within the very near future. Who's backing him up is Jake Delhomme, because on the bye week of Peyton Manning, Jake Delhomme plays the Falcons, and on week 17 he plays the Saints. So I think those are good matchups, and if I need him to fill in for Peyton those 2 times, those are 2 good matchups. Our running backs, Jamal Lewis, Willis McGahee, Brandon Jacobs, Thomas Jones. I don't feel so great about that, but this league actually has slightly different rules to favor quarterbacks. So Lewis was obviously great last year. He's a bit of a boom or bust guy, but I think he'll get touchdowns. McGahee was on an awful team last year and produced. Jacobs should be a touchdown machine, and Jones is running behind a better offensive line in a better offense, so I think he'll be a little better. Wide receivers, I love my wide receivers. Terrell Owens, Anquan Bolden, 2 guys pretty much guaranteed to produce barring injury. Greg Jennings, Chris Chambers, Bobby Ingram, all with very good chances to produce maybe 1,000-yard receivers. Maybe I can use them for trade chips. Tight end, Chris Cooley. Jason Campbell likes to throw to him, and backing him up is Ben Watson. My kicker is David Akers. My defense is the Philly Eagles, and that's my first and what will be second to last fantasy team of the year. So let me know what you think. If you want fantasy advice, if you want to post your teams, let me know. and I'm out.